Like
We've been going for 4 hours and 15 minutes. And now is the time on Sprockets when we dance. Yeah. Oh, wait. That's a different show. It's AMA time, everyone. It's our favorite part of the show. It's Ask Me Anything. Now, here's the rules. If you're going to ask a question, make sure you preface your question in the form of a question, and you have to say who it's directed to. Otherwise, it'll get booted. All right, first up, any questions? Anyone? Jason, is this a well-formatted question? Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, the answer is yes. What does a scam mean? Objection to the form does not have a person in front of it. Question. Christ. How much Pepe cash are you still holding? Objection. There is no one named Christ on this show.
I'll answer to that. I don't even mind. It'd be weird if that's like my new nickname.
Listen, this is how we do this. Right? This is a law show. We have to be specific. Chris, are you sad about breaking up with Junseth? That is a proper question. Chris, the question is to you.
Oh, absolutely. No one's more sad than I am. I put on a very public appearance at times, but I'm very sad. I would hope. I haven't actually talked to Junseth much at all. I would assume he's watching this. Hey, Junseth. Junseth is like, again, my best friend, and I feel terrible about a lot of this stuff. I would like to think that time will heal all wounds. I'd like to think that when I come back to South Florida, we will pick this up again, find an equilibrium in our relationship, and build from there. So let's hope that happens. Somebody else asked if I would apologize to Junseth, to which my answer is, even now, I apologize to Junseth for, I guess, a lot of the stuff that I just didn't want to see get dragged up around his name. I mean, just even prior here, labeling Junseth a scammer really wasn't quite the way I wanted to see this done. And in a lot of the time leading up into this, I was trying to find different ways that I could do this, such that I could have Junseth leave relatively quiet terms, but just the questions just got completely loud and overwhelming, and then it's just unrolled into what has transpired to this point. So, Junseth, I apologize for some of the hairier parts of how this came to be, and that is my heartfelt apology.
Very well said. Very well said. Thank you. All right. Next question. Let's see. Let's go through here. We have some things coming in. Chris and Jason, please each of you define scam. Go ahead, Chris. You're up. Define scam.
A money-losing proposition or event.
A money-losing proposition or event. Now, let me take that definition and I'll run with it. Under the SEC's definition and under the Supreme Court's rulings, actually a money-losing proposition can be a securities investment. You can actually invest in a venture for the sole purpose of losing money in order to take it as a tax write-off, at which point in time the Supreme Court said that is an investment contract. It's a valid investment contract, and that can be an investment strategy. So while that may be a scam, to some people, a money-losing venture can be a benefit. So what you need to look at, instead of just any venture being a money-losing venture, is you need to look at the intent of the person that's putting forth the opportunity and whether or not they have what's called a mens rea, a intent to deceive, specific intent to deceive. And once you get into that mens rea standpoint where somebody wants to deceive someone, now you're in a scam. Scams come in all shapes and sizes. It's not a scam unless somebody means to do it. All right.
I want to add real quick, that is definitely something. The intent issue has been one of the most controversial things on the show we've ever continually dealt with. It is a cornerstone of BU that one needs not intend to scam in order to scam. And I don't care if everybody on the planet disagrees with me on that. I've seen enough of these up close to know that so many of these terrible, ridiculous ideas that everybody agrees was a scam was almost always set off with the best of intentions. Almost always. Guarantee you, Junseth does not believe that anything up till now wasn't acting in a virtuous capacity.
And I'll hitchhike on that a little bit.
Yeah.
You can have the best of intentions, and something can lose money. And that doesn't mean that it's a scam. It means the person was just a shitty business person. But if some point during that venture, someone says, you know what, I'm just a shitty fucking business person, but I'm going to try to rake as much cash out of this while I can, then they've crossed the line. Until then, you're just a shitty business person. All right. Next question. Let's see. What do we have?
Did you just call John Seth a shitty business person? That might
Nope.
be more offensive.
Not at all.
Scammer.
Okay. Not at all. Guest 210065 asks, Chris, did you learn anything, in caps, today from Jason?
I'll watch the video and see if I learned anything. But at the moment, I don't feel like I learned very much. Sorry, Jason.
I learned that I have a lot of fun talking to you about stuff. I did learn that.
I absolutely. You know what I've learned is that Jason's very good at his fucking job. That I've definitely learned, which I already knew. So maybe I didn't learn that.
Appreciate that. All right. I can't pronounce your fucking handle, man. Ricola? Is that supposed to be Ricola, just spelled weird? I don't know. Chris, would you like to see an article on CoinDesk written by Selkis himself about the breakup?
Well, the allegation is that that's all I want, isn't it? So, like, sure, run with it. Tell everybody, you know? I don't really care. Like, this is all public. My life is so public. Yes, whatever people want to write about it or not, like, doesn't even matter to me. Sure.
Guest 20778 asks, Jason, how important is good faith? Objection, vague. Please be more specific. In what form or at what point is good faith, should you ask? Sorry, question rejected. Jansen, can you disclose your crypto holdings? If so, what do you hold? Let's see. I assume that's for me. I hold Bitcoin. Up until a couple of days ago, I did not hold Counterparty, but I do hold some Counterparty now, as I disclosed, which was the sole purpose of trying to explore the Pepe Cash ecosystem. Prior to that, I did some day trading in Etsy, in Shia Coin. There were a couple of other altcoins that I did some speculative day trading on. I do like to do some day trading. I have no problem with that. I have no moral issues in day trading shitcoins. For me, it's an exercise in trying to predict market economy psychology. And so I do it full well knowing that it's a casino, not with the intent to invest in anything seriously. Question for Chris. Are you going to interview Verity Jones?
Verity Jones has escaped me thus far. In fact, I was actually going to go to the jail over here in Koh Samui to check some shit out, and I got distracted by this girl, which has happened more often than I care to admit on this trip. But I'm still here for a while. The other thing, too, is that this Junset stuff is like totally fucking derailed a lot of my shit. So the answer is stay tuned, I guess, unfortunately. You know, I've written some articles. I'm writing the Carpellis piece. I got some videos I'm working on.
How was that?
I haven't got the Carpellis thing was really interesting.
Did you tell him he owes me money? That motherfucker, I'm going to break his kneecaps. Did you tell him that for me?
No, I didn't, but I'm actually very sympathetic to the Mark Carpellis situation, which for me...
Which, by the way, I didn't say that motherfucker, he owes me money. That's just what you were supposed to say to him. I'm not saying that I said to break his kneecaps. That's what you were going to say to him, so...
It's if I were to believe Mark Carpellis, I'm not sure that I do yet, but it really does sound like it's the case. Jed McCaleb is in fact the smoking gun problem at Mt. Gox, and the near entirety of the problem started with Jed holding him a liability bag, then proceeded to get worse by, in part, Mark Carpellis' incompetence, but also I think his intent to make things whole in a way that was completely unconstructive. But also carried out by a person who had absolutely no specialization or competency in the subject matter.
So his response was, "It's not my fault. It was someone else."
No, he would tell you it's his fault, and then you start asking where do things go wrong, and he would say, "Well," he said the thing that okay. So here's the thing that Jed basically stuck him with Mt. Gox. If I'm to believe Mark, Mark was doing some stuff around Bitcoin at the time. Jed handed him over Mount Gox because he didn't want to run it anymore. It was marketed originally as an investment. Somebody could buy Mount Gox. Mark said, geez, I wish I could buy it. I don't have any money. Jed said, okay, no problem. Why don't you just pay me off over time? Here you go.
Yeah.
And he handed over the franchise. The franchise was fractional upon his receiving it, and continued to be more and more fractional as the code base was hacked over and over again, which Mark himself says that he had no access to until like March 1st, I think, of 12 or something. And at which time he started to rewrite the entirety of the code base. The right thing to do was to either not accept the deal, telling everybody, or not talking about what was going on, but telling everybody that like this thing's fractional. And then from there, the right thing to do would have been to halt all operations until Mark could get it to a point where he felt that it was a viable trading platform. Instead, Mark went with a wing and a prayer and decided he could do it on the fly as he was continually hacked on the old code base. And I don't. The real scandal there is, yeah, exactly. The real scandal there is the Willy bot, which Mark had no comments on. The Willy bot probably would have been Mark's real like tort if in fact he was behind it, which is probably mostly true. I think the other thing about Mark is like, I got the when you talk to people, think Mark is like this mastermind, but then you talk to him, he's just another fucking kid in the space, and he's kind of an awkward kid at that, and like in a way that like, I don't know, like Vitalik might be awkward or something, you know, not nearly as awkward as Vitalik is, but in a similar kind of way. So I think what happens when somebody, he's not like an idiot by any stretch. He's actually incredibly bright, but he's a bit of a savantist, I think. So like, again, like the Dow forked because like, Vitalik wanted to make his friends happy. Like Mark Karpelis did the same thing. I think that regulations exist to prevent people from like Mark from operating any sort of systemic risk in our financial system. And it wasn't in place there. So this had to happen. Like it was like when TLC ran Cointelegraph. Like I was waiting for that to explode because TLC is an idiot. And the only reason that she would run that was to be a fall person. Seemingly DMA or whatever the fuck runs that thing is even dumber than TLC. So like, fine. But what happens when those people are managing money? Well, Mt. Gox is what happens.
All right. It appears we have a question from Paul Stortz.
Okay.
Chris, if it were somehow magically impossible for anyone on Earth to take Pepe Cash seriously, including Tim Swanson, to the point where it could be not considered anything other than a joke, would Pepe Cash still be considered a scam? If so,
what's up, Paul?
Who is scamming and who is being scammed?
I think what's evident to me is that was the world before like Pepe Cash started to have any degree of like value to it, and I think that like my answer to that is it was clearly not a joke at the time at which like the market cap started to grow, the pumpers started to pump, and the community started to be what you would see in any other altcoin community. So in a world where that wasn't the case, then absolutely it would have been a scam. But then in that world, John Smith wouldn't have sold because it would have had no value. And so I think that's what I saw here, and that's what happened with Doge.
So interesting. I think for a lot of the people, hold on a second. There's a question here. Jason, are you going to do a solo interview with Junseth? Yes, I did it the other day. You can find it on the YouTube. We are in the AMA, for those who are asking. Pay attention, please. All right. What was I going to say? I totally lost my train of thought. You fuckers in the Exotica forum got me off guard. Let's find another question here. Dead air sucks.
I want to answer the question about how much of the 32K spent on Thailand would I be okay with?
So here's a question. Chris, how much of the $32,000 spent on Junseth going to Thailand would you be okay with? Do you understand the question?
Yeah.
All right.
I think that the best answer I can give you to that is that like the tort has been committed. I am guilty myself for my role. And so if Junseth came to Thailand now, I don't know what it is I would be supposed to do. I would give him the cold shoulder. He knows, and everybody knows how I feel about this. And at that point, that 32K is now a balance in his bank account. It isn't, it's fungible. It isn't labeled. So the question really is, at what point am I okay with Junseth? At what point will I do anything with Junseth to the degree that he spends money. To which the answer is, I think that at this point, like the best I can do is to take action to try to like remediate the issue. That action has been taken. I'd like to continue being Johnson's friend. What I will say is that even like in the past when we have these like scammer types that are on, we air out the grievance, we explore the issue, we expose the scandal, and at that point, with rare exception, we don't really like label them like super dirty people. I think Jeremy Gardner we kind of did that with, and maybe Michael Turpin,
maybe Julian,
maybe. So I think that's your answer. Is it like, would I be okay with it? Well, I'm not okay with the situation, but I would like to preserve a friendship with Junseth, and I don't see how it would be constructive at this point to say that there's somehow dirty money that would then, I guess he would come to Thailand and I would give him a cold shoulder or some nonsense. So like that would be my answer.
Guest 20778, you've got a lot of questions. Thanks for participating. All of your questions will be rejected from this point forward until you get a goddamn login name. Really? Just register, man. He says no. All right. Guest 210065. Last question. Jason, do you think Chris is too thick to understand that Junseth didn't do anything wrong? No, I don't think that. I think there's probably a lot of other things at play here. There's ego. There's positions. There's some politicking for moving forward in the world as a show producer or not. All those things, whether they exist or not, are up for them to decide. I can only speculate. So with that,